On a chilly winter afternoon in Chicago, as the cold wind blew fiercely and the snow blanketed the streets, Laura Parker hurried through the busy roads on her way home. She was a 25-year-old graphic designer. Her life was neither particularly difficult nor easy. Laura had moved to Chicago a year ago and had yet to feel truly settled in the hustle and bustle of the big city. She lived in a small apartment, and while her job was stable, it was far from her dream career. Laura often felt out of place in this large city, where people seemed too busy with their own lives to pay attention to one another. She hadn't found a place she could truly call home. However, she had kept a small habit, visiting a nearby coffee shop every morning, a place where she could at least feel a connection to the world around her. One afternoon, just before Christmas, as Laura stood at a busy intersection waiting for the light to turn, she noticed something that would stay with her for a long time. An older man, with silver hair and holding a worn-out backpack, was sitting huddled on the sidewalk. He wore a thin jacket, clearly inadequate for the biting cold of winter. His presence stood in stark contrast to the bustling city, where people rushed by without a second thought. Laura's heart ached at the sight. She didn't know who he was or how he had ended up there, but something inside her told her she couldn't just walk past. Despite the cold and the busy streets around her, Laura walked over to him. Her hands were shaking from the cold, but she approached the man with a gentle voice. "Excuse me, sir," she said. "Are you okay? Can I help you in any way?" The man looked up slowly, his eyes filled with a deep sadness. He nodded but said nothing. His face was weathered and tired, and it was clear that life had not been kind to him recently. Laura didn't know what to do, but she couldn't leave him like this. She offered him some money, but the man shook his head gently. "I don't need money, miss," he said hoarsely. "I just need someone to talk to." With a soft smile, Laura sat down beside him on the cold concrete. She didn't say anything at first, but just sat there, offering her presence. The old man began to speak, telling her his story, how he had once been a successful lawyer, had a family, and lived a life full of promise. But after a series of unfortunate events, a failed business, and the death of his wife, he had lost everything. He found himself homeless, wandering the streets of Chicago, where no one noticed him. As he spoke, Laura listened. She could feel the weight of his words, the years of pain and regret, and the loneliness that he carried with him. She could sense that the holidays were particularly hard for him, reminding him of what he had lost. Laura didn't have much, but she couldn't help but feel that she needed to do something. The man had no coat, and she could see he was shivering. "I don't have a lot, but I can offer you something to keep you warm," she said, taking off her scarf and draping it around his shoulders. He looked up at her in surprise, his eyes softening. "Thank you. You don't have to do that," he said, his voice trembling. "I know I don't have to," Laura replied with a smile. "But I want to. It's the least I can do." For a moment, there was silence between them. Laura felt a warmth in her chest, not from the scarf she had given, but from the simple connection they had made. Sometimes in life, the smallest gestures can make the biggest impact. The old man took a deep breath, wiping away a tear that had formed in his eye. "You're the first person in months who's shown me kindness. I don't know what to say." Laura smiled and placed a hand on his. "You don't have to say anything. Just take care of yourself, okay?" After a few more minutes of quiet conversation, Laura knew it was time to leave. She didn't want to abandon him, but she also knew she couldn't do more for him at that moment. "Take care of yourself, okay? And Merry Christmas," she said, standing up. The man looked up at her, his face filled with gratitude. "Merry Christmas to you too, miss. Thank you for being kind to me." As Laura walked away, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. It wasn't about the money or the scarf she had given him. It was about offering someone a little bit of humanity in a world that often seemed too cold and indifferent. She knew that she had made a difference, even if only for a brief moment. As Christmas approached, Laura couldn't stop thinking about that moment on the sidewalk. She realized that this holiday, which for so many was about gifts and celebration, held a much deeper meaning. It was about connection, compassion, and kindness. The more she thought about the old man, the more she realized that there were countless others like him, invisible to most people, hidden in plain sight. She began to reflect on her own life. Laura had always been focused on her career, on achieving success, but she had overlooked the more important things, like building genuine connections with the people around her. The experience with the homeless man had taught her that success wasn't just about professional achievements, but about making a difference in the lives of others, no matter how small that difference might seem. Laura decided that, from that day on, she would try to live her life with more compassion and empathy. She would reach out to others who were struggling, even if it was just a small gesture, like sharing a cup of coffee or offering a kind word. She realized that the simple acts of kindness, the ones that cost little but mean so much, were what truly mattered. And in doing so, she felt more connected to the world around her than she ever had before. On Christmas Eve, just as Laura was about to head to her apartment, she received an unexpected message. It was a picture, taken in the snow outside the coffee shop where she often visited. In the picture was the old man, now wearing a new coat, sitting on the steps of the shop with a big smile on his face. Along with the picture was a short note. "Thank you for the kindness you showed me that day. I found a shelter and a new place to stay. You gave me more than warmth. You gave me hope. Merry Christmas." Laura's eyes filled with tears as she read the message. She had no idea what had happened to him after their brief encounter, but now she knew that, in some small way, she had made a difference. It wasn't just about the scarf or the coat or the money she had offered. It was about the simple fact that for a few moments someone had seen him as a person, not just a stranger on the street. And in that moment, he found hope. The story of Laura and the homeless man is not just a lesson about kindness, but also a profound reminder of the importance of empathy and compassion in our daily lives. In today's world, we often get caught up in our personal concerns and forget about the people around us, especially those who are struggling. The small act of kindness that Laura showed, simply offering her scarf and listening to the man's story, had a huge impact on his life and perhaps even on her own. This story teaches us that no one is too small to make a difference. Sometimes the smallest actions we take can bring hope and change to others, even when we think they may be insignificant. Especially during Christmas, a season of giving and sharing, every act of kindness becomes an invaluable gift to those who need it most. Another important lesson is never judge others by their appearance. We can never fully know someone's story just by looking at them. The old man in the story may have once been someone completely different, a man with a family, a career, a future, but due to a series of unfortunate events, he had lost everything. Laura's act of kindness wasn't just helping a homeless person. It was recognizing his humanity, seeing him for who he was beyond his circumstances. Reading this story makes me reflect on my own actions. Am I doing enough to help those in need? We often ask ourselves, we get so wrapped up in our own lives that we forget the simple things we can do to make a difference. The story of Laura and the homeless man reminds me that the little things we do for others can have an immeasurable impact. If you've enjoyed this story and believe in the power of kindness, don't forget to follow our page for more inspiring stories. Let's create a community where love, compassion, and empathy are the foundation of every interaction. Together, we can make a difference, one small act at a time. Follow us now to be part of the movement.